Hey, wolf dens and marked men's, let's get rolling! Woo! Hey everybody, my name is John and welcome to ADITW, A Day in the Word, the internet's favorite Bible study. Today we are in Matthew chapter 26, and things are getting a little heavy. Jesus is about to be betrayed, put on trial, and eventually killed. Spoiler! And today I want to focus on the second half of chapter 26 and begin to look at things through the eyes of Peter. And so if you wouldn't mind starting off by reading verses 30 through 35. So here we have Peter classically swearing that he will never abandon Jesus. Even if everyone else falls away, I never will. And in a way, Peter is almost taking an oath here. And we know how Jesus feels about them oaths. And of course, it's really easy for us to sit there and judge Peter, but how often in our relationship with God do we do the exact same thing? We say, oh God, I promise I'm gonna start doing this. Or, oh, I promise I'm never gonna do that again, God. But then of course we never start doing this and we continue to do that. And again, Jesus calls us to make our yes, yes, and our no, no, because an oath is a weak form of integrity, which we'll talk about a bit more later on. But now we're on to the next section. Let's read verses 36 through 46. So can I just say right off the bat here that I really feel for the disciples. Like, I recognize with you all. As someone who falls asleep all the time while watching TV and whose wife gets very, very angry at them for doing it, I understand their plight. But in this section, I want to focus specifically on this idea that the spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. Because by using this phrase, Jesus is sort of recalling Peter's oath, right? Peter's spirit is willing to stick by Jesus and suffer with him, but his flesh will not actually allow him to do it. And that's usually the problem with the oaths and promises that we make to God as well, right? But I think that even outside of that, Jesus is also talking about himself here. We all agree that Jesus was both God and man. He was God wrapped in man's flesh. And so it seems that Jesus's spirit, the God part of him, is willing to drink this cup and go through this terrible death. But the flesh, the human part of Jesus, is scared and weak and terrified. And this reminds me of when Paul encourages us in Galatians to walk by the Spirit, and you will not gratify the desires of the flesh. The idea here is that when we live from and through the image of God that has been placed within us, the God part, then we will not fall into temptation and sin that comes from the human part of us. And so we need to ask, are we living from the God part or the human part of ourselves? Are we walking by the Spirit or by the flesh? And lastly, I want to skip a little bit forward and I need you to read verses 69 through 75. So first, I want to point out here where Peter is. Peter is outside in the courtyard. And a few verses earlier, we are told that Peter is following Jesus at a distance. Now, this doesn't sound like the oath Peter made at the beginning. Peter doesn't seem to be as committed as he once did. And Peter's location here is not arbitrary. It should serve as a reminder to all of us that your closeness with God is directly correlated to your commitment to God. The more committed we are to God and to the work that He's doing in our lives, the more closely we are going to follow Him. But if you haven't given Him your life, if you are following at a distance, then you will find yourself outside with Peter in the courtyard. And it's in this courtyard that Peter begins to face accusations. People saying to him, "Wait, you know Jesus, don't you?" And of course, we see Peter deny and deny and deny. And he doesn't just deny it. He calls down a curse on himself. He swears that he doesn't know him. He denies it with an oath. And so we see that Peter's story in this chapter is bookended by oaths. You see, the problem with oaths is that it's just as easy to make an oath that you're going to follow Jesus as it is to make one that you never knew him. And Jesus does not want that. Jesus doesn't just want our words. He wants our hearts. He wants our actions. He wants our lives. Words are really easy to flip or to change. And if you look closely, you'll notice that Peter's words actually change based on the company he finds himself in. When Peter is surrounded by disciples, when he finds himself in good company, he says, "I will never leave you." But when it gets uncomfortable, when it gets inconvenient, or even scary for him, he screams, "I never knew the man." And so the question I want to end with today is, am I willing to follow Jesus even when it's uncomfortable, inconvenient, unpopular, or even dangerous? Am I willing to follow him not only with my words, but with my heart and with every action that I take? And by the way, if you thought things were rough for Peter right now, just wait and see what Jesus goes through next week. Hey y'all, thank you so much for watching another episode of ADITW. We only have two chapters left in Matthew. I can't believe it. Real quick before I go, I wanted to let you all know that I have sort of recommitted or restarted my Patreon page. For those of you who don't know what Patreon is a platform that allows you, the audience, to help support me, the creator, so that I can make what I make on this channel even better for you. There's more information on rewards and exactly what this money will be going to in the description down below, so please check it out. I would really appreciate if you would even consider helping out this channel. I want to keep making these videos better and higher quality and more excellent, not only for you, but also so that we can reach more people with these messages and with these truths. Anyway, that's all I have for you all today. I love you all. Have a great week. Keep being awesome.